What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Eddie D. Williams, and you are listening to and watching a brand new episode of Just Talking About. My new podcast. We just started up this week. This is the second episode of our podcast. We are presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of my adult superhero romance thriller saga, The Infinity Saga, with book one, the three-time award-winning Infinity Theory, and Echoes, book two of the Infinity Saga. And so, certainly glad to be on the mic with you guys on this morning, this afternoon. It's 11:31 Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast. And so, hopefully, that you're having a great day thus far, a great Thursday afternoon. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to recover from infidelity. If you've ever been in a marriage or in a relationship and someone was cheating on somebody, how you can effectively recover from infidelity in your relationship. We're also going to be talking about Target's CEO stepping down, quote unquote, and the fallout from the protests that have been happening, the boycott that's been happening with Target and the fallout thereof. We're also going to be talking about struggling with our identity in Christ and how sometimes we can think that we have a deep relationship with the Lord, but our relationship with Him is actually contingent upon the things that we do instead of being able to rest in Him. And so, got a lot of things to talk about today. Certainly, again, grateful and glad for each and every one of you who have thought it out, Robert, to spend just a little bit of time with me on this afternoon on the Just Talking About podcast with your boy Eddie D, presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of my adult superhero romance thriller saga, The Infinity Saga, with book one, The Infinity Theory, and book two, Echoes. So let's jump right into it. On this Thursday afternoon, the first thing that I wanted to talk about today is recovering from infidelity. They have a lot of, in my therapy work, I talk to a lot of clients who are in marriages and in relationships. And one of the hardest things to deal with and one of the hardest things to overcome is when someone makes the decision to cheat on the other person. One of the hardest challenges that people walk into these therapy spaces with is trying to figure out, how do I get over the fact that my partner cheated on me? How do I get over the fact that my spouse cheated on me? Cheating happens in so many different forms. It could be relational. It can be, well, definitely relational. Physical cheating, emotional cheating, mental cheating. But it happens in all sorts of different ways and formats. It's not just the act of, having relations with another person. Sometimes you could find yourself jumping into people's DMs inappropriately. Sometimes you can end up, sharing pictures inappropriately. Sometimes you can have stimulating conversations that you ought to be having with your spouse, but instead you're having it with someone of the opposite sex without having the conversation, the same conversation, similar conversation, deeper conversation with your partner. And so a lot of people will come into the therapy space and ask me, how do we get past this? How do we move on from this? How do I, make my relationship work, knowing that this person has betrayed me, knowing that this person has decided not to to disrespect our vows, to disrespect, the things that we are supposed to, be doing for one another, being together forever. How do I get over that? How do I get past that? How do I continue in a relationship with my spouse? And so there's a lot of different caveats and a lot of different nuances that come with trying to overcome infidelity in a relationship. The first and foremost, there has to be ownership. Ownership that a wrong has happened. A lot of times, the issue that we run into when trying to repair the damage that's been done is that there is no ownership of the damage that's actually been done. It's minimized to a great degree. A lot of times people will say things to the effect of, well, I've been apologized over it. I've been, told you I'm sorry profusely time and time again. Like, why do you keep bringing it up? Why do you keep, saying that you're hurt by it? It's done. It's done. We're done with it. It's why are we still talking about it? And the fact of the matter is, a person when their whole idea of what the relationship was has been shattered, that person has been traumatized. And anytime you're dealing with any type of trauma, trauma is not linear. Trauma comes and goes in waves. And so one day you might be over it and might be okay and might be able to deal with it and move on from it. But then another day, something may set you off and make you feel all the feelings that you felt the first time you found out about the infidelity, found out about the cheating, found out about the indiscretion. And so for a lot of people, there's this tendency to think that, especially on the cheater's part, that we've already talked about it, we've already dealt with it, we've already maneuvered around it. Why are we still bringing it up? Why is it still being a thing? And the fact of the matter is, it's because for that person, they've been traumatized. And trauma is not linear. Trauma is circular. Trauma is a wave. And sometimes it's good on some days, bad on others. And the simplest little thing can set a person off and make them think, oh my gosh, I'm right back there and I have all these questions. And why'd you do this? And why'd you do that? And how come this? And how come that? And so we have to take ownership of the fact that we've harmed our person, that we hurt this person's feelings, that we made their whole worldview of the relationship, it's shattered, it's damaged. What we thought this was, it is no longer. This relationship has changed, and we have to take ownership of that. And we have to take ownership of the fact that because we cause this, it is indiscretion. We cause this relationship to be shattered the way that it is. That as our person is going through the waves of the trauma, we have to allow them that space to have that. We got to allow them the space to be hurt, allow them the space to be broken, allow them the space to be bitter, allow them the space to be torn as they are navigating through their feelings of what has happened. Secondly, and again, these are not steps, but it's just a pattern in the things that we have to think about when trying to recover from infidelity. The second thing is that we have to understand that infidelity, by and large, does not happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. And what do I mean by that? More often than not, it was a series of events that took place that led to the infidelity taking place. This is not to condone it. This is not to justify it, but it's to unpack it and understand it. More often than not, a person who has committed infidelity, who has cheated, more often than not, they felt like they weren't being heard, they weren't being seen, they weren't being valued, they weren't being validated. Now, whether that has been expressed straight up or whether it was something that was said in a passive aggressive way, more often than not, that person has felt like I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel valued, I didn't feel appreciated. I tried to tell them what I wanted, tried to tell her what I wanted. They weren't willing to give it to me. And as a result, now, here's this person who, gives me a little bit of attention, a little bit of affection, asks the right question, how are you really doing? And everything kind of just fell from there, where simple conversations started to turn into inappropriate conversations, deep conversations, the conversations I want to have with my spouse, the conversation I want to have with my boyfriend, with my girlfriend, with my person, the conversations that I wish I could have with them, I'm now having with this other person, and one thing led to another. And so a lot of times, our relationships, when a person commits infidelity, it didn't happen in a vacuum. Over a course of time, a series of events started to set off that created the perfect storm. And in that perfect storm, infidelity occurred. Again, this isn't to justify it. This isn't to make it okay, but it's to understand the pattern. To understand the fact that sometimes we end up in situations where the void that's been created by the lack of attention or lack of affection or lack of observance leads to that void being so big that all it takes is someone giving us a little bit of attention And all of a sudden it now becomes like a drug, and it's like we're trying so hard to continue to have that attention being paid to us, and one thing leads to another, and that's what causes us to end up, in a situation where we're cheating on our partners or cheating on our spouses. And so we have to come to terms with that. We have to come to terms with that, because a lot of times, again, unless a person's just outright just mad and wanting to burn the world down, cheating doesn't happen in a vacuum. And for a lot of the cheatees, the person who was cheated on, we don't want to acknowledge that we might have had a role to play in this situation taking place. We might have had a role to play. Again, it's not to condone it, it's not to make it right, but we sometimes don't recognize that I might have had a role to play in the fact that my spouse decided they wanted to do something outside of the relationship, that they wanted to cheat. I gotta take it. I gotta acknowledge that this thing wasn't just a thing that happened. A series of events took place that made the perfect storm that almost made this inevitable. And so again, we have to acknowledge the series of events that took place that made this possible. Again, it's not to condone it. It's not to make it right. It's not to make it where, that's why they did it. Oh, okay. No, we still own the feelings of being hurt, being betrayed, angry, all the things. But it's again to understand that a series of events took place in most cases that led to this happening. Again, sometimes in life we can get complacent, and we can feel as though, we're just going according to plan. The life is just lifing, and it is what it is. And as a result, we start not seeing each other. We start not understanding each other. We start not talking to each other like we used to. And in that space, it starts to create the void. We hope that someone will see it and speak on it, understand it, talk about it, and those sort of things. But 9 times out of 10, we don't see that as we're going through the motions of life, raising kids, working on the job, life just transpiring, us getting older, all the things that sometimes it can create a void that if we're not careful, if we don't see it, may cause us to then act out of character in an attempt to fill the void that's been created. And so once we're able to understand and unpack that, it then becomes necessary to create a space for safe, open, honest communication. Now, again, this is probably going to be challenging because of the fact that we've been hurt and we want to just get it. We just want to get that hurt off our chest. We want to let them know I'm hurt, I'm bitter, I'm broken, all the things. In creating a space for safe and effective communication, it gives us the opportunity to be able to unpack all the things, all the emotions of the hurt and pain, all of the things that led up to where things fell apart, and more importantly, understanding what our partner needs. Sometimes we, as again being in relationship, we can give our partners the best of us, but it still not be what our partner values, what our partner needs, what our partner desires. And so if my love language, that the love language that I give is acts of service, but my partner's love language is words of affirmation, I can give my partner acts of service all day long. But if I never give them the words of affirmation that they're looking for, a void is going to be created. And so sometimes it's not that you don't love your partner. You love them very much, but you may not be speaking the language that your partner desires the most. And so even in all of your doing, if you're not speaking the love language of your partner, then your partner will feel a void in their heart that will be easy for someone else to speak the language that they love, the language that they crave. So again, if all I'm doing is acts of service, and I never give my partner words of affirmation that is the love language that she speaks, then it makes it easy for someone to give her words of affirmation, and that now become the person that she goes to for words of affirmation. And so even though I may be very fluent in acts of service, it would behoove me to learn how to speak the language of words of affirmation so that I can speak the language that my partner receives and desires the most. See, when we're in partnership and in relationship, we sometimes have to realize I'm going to have to make some sacrifices. I'm going to have to sacrifice some things in order for my partner to know that I love them and that I care about them. Yes, don't stop doing what you're doing as your primary language that you know how to speak very well. But if your partner doesn't receive acts of service as well as again, words of affirmation is the example, then again, it would behoove me to learn how to speak words of affirmation so that my partner knows that I care about them, not just from what I do from day to day, but by giving them what they want. I often liken it to this. If I give my kids $5,000 worth of stuff, and right now my kid is watching on the TikTok land, hey girl, how you doing? If I give my daughters $5,000 worth of stuff for Christmas, but I miss the $10 item that they've been asking for all year long, Christmas is ruined. It doesn't matter that I got them $5,000 worth of stuff. What matters is that I heard what they wanted and I gave them what they wanted. If I give you $5,000 worth of stuff, but I missed that $10 item, I can think that I'm dad of the year all day. I'm gonna be a terrible person in the eyes of my kids. Relationships are no different. If my partner values something more so than anything else, and I love my partner, want to be with my partner, want to spend the rest of my life with my partner, want to do life with my partner, then it behooves me to learn the language of my partner and be able to speak it fluently so that my partner knows that I love them and that I care about them. And again, this is important when it comes to recovering from infidelity. Because infidelity, again, more often than not, it's about a void being temporarily filled. So if I know what my partner values and know what my partner desires and know what my partner needs, I now have the cheat codes. The cheat codes to making sure that my partner knows that I care, knows that I love them, knows that I'm here for them. And so if I know what my partner values and I know what my partner wants and I know what my partner needs, this is again for the cheater and the cheatee, it now makes it easier for us to be able to build upon a more solid foundation because I understand what my partner values and now I'm in a position to give it to them. Now, that's the easy part. The final piece that I want to give y'all today before I move on is the hard part is rebuilding trust. Because yes, cheating has occurred. So that means betrayal has occurred. That means that trust has been broken. Fidelity has been broken. And so it is difficult for the cheatee to trust the cheater when the cheater is saying, I still want to be in this relationship. For the cheater, you have to allow for grace and patience as your partner is overcoming the pain from the betrayal. You don't get to dictate how long it takes your partner to get over what you've done. Your partner didn't cheat on you. You cheated on your partner. So you now don't have the right to dictate how long it's going to take for your partner to get over what you've done to them because you hurt them. You cheated on them. Got to accept that. It is what it is. You did what you did. And so we can't put a time limit on when they're supposed to get over this. Nevertheless, if I understand my partner's love language and I understand what my partner values, my job is to be consistent in giving them what they need and what they desire. My My job is to understand and to recognize that I have to be consistent in what I do. And I cannot do it expecting a pat on the back. I'm so proud of you. Good job every single time that I do it. My job is to love you the way you want to be loved and to show consistency in that as my partner is getting past and getting through the hurt and the pain of the betrayal that I caused, regardless of the reason, regardless of the void. For the cheatee, my job is to recognize, again, if we're talking about the fact that the partner, that the cheater was looking for something that I didn't give them, my job is to be able to give my partner what they're looking for while simultaneously working through the pain and the hurt that I feel. Because again, that pain and hurt is justifiable and it's not going to go away overnight. You're not going to just all of a sudden, okay, I'm over it, we're good, we can be all right. No, you're going to be hurt for a while. And flashbacks and nightmares and all those things are going to occur without question, because you've been hurt, you've been betrayed, and you've been traumatized. And so you're going to feel those things. And so, again, given the space of safety where you guys can talk about those things, you got to work through the pain and the hurt and the betrayal as you are rebuilding trust. Being patient with your partner as they're showing you consistency, or at least you're looking for consistency, and ensuring that you are giving your partner what they value, what they need, and what they desire, because you're still a partnership. And it is, again, your responsibility to be able to provide for your partner what they value, what they desire, what they need. Because again, in this situation, the series of events that occurred are what led up to the infidelity taking place. And as much as you can help it to prevent the void being created, you want to be able to give your partner what they're looking for. Now, all of this that I've just said is not a step 1, step 2, step 3, we gonna be all right in a week. These things that I'm suggesting about how to recover from infidelity takes months, if not years, to get through. So I'm in no way, stating that, this is something that somebody ought to be able to get over and get through and be good with it, mañana. No, that's not what I'm saying by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't want anyone walking out of here thinking that that's what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that for many of us who are going through or have gone through infidelity, we ask the question, how do I recover from it? It is a series of things where you're having to acknowledge the pain, create a space of safety, recognize what my partner needs and values, and then being able to be patient with one another as you're rebuilding trust and rebuilding the foundation of the relationship. You can recover from infidelity, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of kindness. It's going to take a lot of forgiveness. It's going to take a lot of patience on both your parts. And so, again, if you decide that I want this relationship and I want it to work and I want us to be what we were meant to be, then these are just some helpful steps, some helpful, I'm going to call paradigms by which to get through and overcome. It won't make it easy. It won't make it fun, but I can promise you that if you're willing to do the work, that you can go on to continue to have a great relationship, and I actually have a better relationship with this second iteration than in the first, because it will give you guys the opportunity to have greater communication and conversations with one another about what you want, what you need, what you value, and how to be able to effectively give it to your partners so that the void is minimized, because it's being filled both by self as well as your partner. I appreciate y'all for watching and listening to the Just Talk About podcast with your boy Eddie D, presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of my adult superhero romance thriller saga, The Infinity Saga, with book 1, The Affinity Theory, and book 2, Echoes. Certainly grateful again for each and every one of you who have thought it not robbery to give me this opportunity to be able to spit game with you all and just to talk about whatever's on my mind. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can feel free to drop down in the chat box. We are live on all the platforms, and I am monitoring all of the chat boxes. And so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to drop down in the box and let me know what you're thinking and how you're feeling. More than happy to answer any and all questions if there is time. If you have a subject matter that you would like for me to talk about on the podcast, feel free to drop down in the comment box or to email us at justtalkingaboutpodcast@gmail.com to where you'll be able to then let me know what you would like for me to talk about. And who knows, your topic may be the topic of discussion that I talk about on the Just Talking About podcast. Again, presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of the Infinity Saga, with book 1, the 3-time award-winning Affinity Theory, and book 2 entitled Echoes. So, in the news today, Target's CEO stepped down as CEO, and people were wondering all around the airwaves and the social media pages whether or not this was an actual victory or not. And after listening to a lot of people talk about it, realized that even though he did step down, the CEO did step down as CEO, he was actually moved into a much more powerful position in the company as the COO was promoted to CEO. And so for a lot of us, it has us really wondering whether or not the move was actually more performative than it was actually making some type of difference. And so what I wanted to talk about in that regard is how a lot of times we see brands and we see companies and we see people jumping on bandwagons in an attempt to try to, gain popularity or gain sales within their various brands. And a lot of times it just goes to show that for a lot of people, they don't really care about the issues. They care more about how to capitalize from said issues. I have in my book Echoes, there is a part in there where Malcolm is talking to Simone, and Simone asks Malcolm, like, what do you think about this situation that's occurred within our government? And he basically says, it's all a show. It's all a game. It's about popularity. It's about getting likes. It's about, being voted back in. It's about power. And whatever bandwagon that they can jump on in order to get that power, that's what they're going to do. And again, it's very unfortunate, but it is a fact of life that for the vast majority of your corporations and your organizations, they're going to jump on whatever bandwagon they feel like they need to jump on in an attempt to try to get people to buy their products and to like their stuff and to put their name on social medias and things. Sometimes people will even allow controversy in order to get their name in lights. Some people say that bad publicity is still publicity. We saw that happen with the Sydney Sweden, was it Levi? No, let me not, no. No. American Eagle, the American Eagle campaign. Woo, I'm glad I got it right. Like, which one was it? The American Eagle campaign, and how, the subliminal messaging within that campaign, was not, apropos, but notice how much noise it made. It made so much noise. And so sometimes people will do things in an attempt to try to capitalize on bandwagons that are occurring. And again, we're all guilty of it at one point or another. We see an event taking place and we try to take advantage of it. I certainly, was trying to take advantage of July 4th when we put out Echoes, because Echoes is more of a political book than it is than all the other books within the saga that I'm writing. And so we were like, July 4th, Independence Day. Hey, let's jump on that bandwagon and see whether or not that makes some noise for the book sales. And so we all try to navigate these spaces in an attempt to try to gain a financial advantage. And our politicians and our corporations are no different. Target, for example, is, they realize they messed up, but they won't own that they messed up, which goes again to show that it's always been about the bottom line. It's always been about the bottom line. When DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, became a big thing within the national government, a lot of corporations stepped up, but they stepped up not because they believed in the principles and practices, but because they thought that it would get them more money. They thought that if they were to run these campaigns and run these organizations, that it was going to get them a lot more people into their stores to buy their products. They were given government subsidies to offset a lot of the programs that they put in place. And they were making a lot of rack as a result of that. Target was one of those places where we got a lot more inclusion than usual. And people were banking on that. But as soon as DEI then became I'm going to say it like this, a cuss word, companies started backing down. Money started shriveling up from the federal government one way or another. And a lot of those programs that were in place, we got to see that they really didn't care about diversity. They didn't really care about equity. They didn't really care about inclusion. They cared about money. They cared about getting dollars. They cared about, getting tax breaks and things like that. And so the second that they felt threatened that those things were going to go away, they started backtracking in order to keep their federal funds. And so a lot of corporations really showed their true colors. They really showed their true colors. And other corporations showed how that they really do care about diversity, really do care about equity, do really care about inclusion, more so than they do the bottom line. But even in that, we have to be careful, because a lot of the corporations that are still backing diversity, equity, and inclusion, they may be seeing the fallout from corporations like Target and saying to themselves, even though I may want to back out of it, if we do, we'll end up getting hurt. So let's keep it and continue to push it, because now it's so popular in the eyes of people that if we push for it, then if we push harder for it, then people will want to shop with us than they do our rivals. And so even in that, we still have to be careful that just because people are still clinging to it, that they're not clinging to it because they see the writing on the wall. Because I always say, you say that you stand for it, but show me how you're doing it. Show me in your policies, show me in your practices, show me in your leadership, show me in your boardrooms. How are you really standing up for diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because just because it's popular right now doesn't mean you really believe in it. We saw what happened with Black Lives Matter. When Black Lives Matter was at its peak, organizations and corporations and big media and in entertainment and sports, everybody was rah-rah-rahing for Black Lives Matter because it was the popular thing to do. But just a year prior, Colin Kaepernick is bending the knee to talk about and address the issues, and he was vilified for that. He was absolutely torched for that. But now that it became the popular thing, everybody wanted to rah-rah for it. But then as soon as it became a problem, we're too woke. Now everyone started backtracking from it once again. And so again, when it's popular, when it's convenient, people want to stand up for it. But when it's not popular, when it's not popping, when it's not convenient, when it's not going to help meet the bottom line, a lot of corporations, a lot of big time media are strangely, though not surprising, silent. And so again, even now, as we see like the Gap in their commercial, that is the antithesis to American Eagle. Are they really standing up for us, or is it a matter of convenience? Is it a matter of trying to again appeal to the masses in a way to where they're now saying, don't shop at American Eagle, come shop here with us? Do they really stand for what they say they stand for, or are they taking advantage of a situation where they see what happened with Target and they're like, we're not going to be Target? They see what happened with American Eagle. We're not going to be American Eagle. We're going to stand above that in a way that puts us above the fray, and in doing so, make our bottom line that much bigger. So again, I'm not knocking anybody for their hustle. Do what you do. But I'm just challenging us today. Are you paying attention to what's really happening? Are you paying attention to what's going on? Because again, yes, we see the companies that are standing up for us, that are standing up for people as a whole, that are standing up for, things like DEI and those sort of things. But are they really doing it because they believe in the principles? Or are they only doing it because they know that now is the time to strike while the iron is hot, so that maybe somebody will see us and want to shop with us because they see that we're standing for them, when in reality, whenever the next wave comes, we're going to move everything in that direction so that we can catch the new wave of people. You're listening to and watching the Just Talking About podcast with your boy Eddie D. Williams. I am so grateful to be on the podcast with y'all. We're presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of my adult superhero romance thriller saga, The Infinity Saga, with book 1, The Infinity Theory, and book 2, Echoes, available in the Infinity Saga store. If you head over to the bio and follow the instructions in the bio, you can receive your copies of The Infinity Theory and Echoes at your convenience. Certainly grateful to be again here on the live with y'all and to be rocking with y'all on the various platforms. We are available just about everywhere you can think of. And so if you have missed any part of this recording and would like to listen to it over again, or you just want to, listen to the sound of my voice 50 times, you could head over to YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast and catch the recasting of these podcasts. But we are available just about everywhere you can find us on the various platforms. And so we certainly do appreciate you guys for spending just a little bit of time with me as I'm just talking about whatever's on my mind. And so certainly grateful to all of you. And again, we are presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of The Infinity Theory and Echoes, books 1 and 2 of The Infinity Saga. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you all today about is the fact that, for those of us who are struggling with identity in Christ, I was talking to somebody the other day, and a lot of his identity and his worth was based upon what he does, based upon what they do. And so a lot of times when they weren't getting the accolades or getting the achievements, wasn't getting the I'm proud of yous, wasn't getting any of those things, they'll find themselves struggling, trying to understand, their worth and their value, and trying to understand, why do I feel like, I'm worthless, or why do I feel like I'm not, feeling good or not feeling like my best, and those sort of things. And so, in talking with them, I realized that a lot of us, we struggle with who we are as a people and as a person. We struggle with identifying ourselves through the lens of others. And so a lot of our acceptance, a lot of our validation, a lot of our worth, we tend to get that from what other people think of us, what other people feel about us. And particularly talking to my Christian brothers and sisters today, we know that our identity is in Christ. We know that our identity is rooted and founded in the rock, That is where we get our identity. That is where we get our hope. That is where we get our joy and our peace from. We know this headwise. But when it comes to our hearts and what we're really anchored in, a lot of us, we forget that our identity truly lies in him. And so while we understand that he loves us, and while we understand that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, while we understand that, we are a son or a daughter of the king, we really don't rest in that. And so for a lot of us, our vertical relationship with our Savior is more contingent upon the horizontal relationships we have with people. What do I mean by that? I can attest for myself that my relationship with God looked a lot like my relationship with my parents. And I was afraid of my parents growing up. And so for a lot of us, we think that my relationship with God is such to where I have to perform for him in order for him to love me. I got to perform for him in order for him to bless me. I got to perform for him in order to make sure that I don't get struck with lightning bolts and thunderclaps. I don't want him to hate me. I don't want him to hurt me. So let me do what I need to do in order to make him like me. And we again get that from the horizontal relationship. I got that from the horizontal relationship that I had with my parents. I felt like because I don't want my parents to be mad at me, let me do things so that I can get them to love me, like me, affirm me, accept me, validate me. Let me perform for them. And in that same way, I thought that was what my relationship with God was supposed to look like too. And so in seeking validation and worth and knowing our identity, a lot of us identify ourselves with our performance and what we do and how well we do it. And so what often happens is our horizontal relationships will begin to define who we are. And again, talking to the believers today, our vertical relationship with God tends to look the same way. Where again, I know he loves me, but I feel like I need to do this in order to make him love me. I know he loves me, but I feel like I need to do these things in order to get him to bless me. I know he loves me, but I'm going to do these things because my validation and worth is based upon how I perform. And so when we find that our performance doesn't get us what we want, or that it's not enough, again, talking to people who have talked to me, find ourselves wondering, who am I apart from what I do? Who am I when it comes to the things that I like, the things that I want, the things that I need, the things that I value? Who am I? And why is it so difficult for me to accept who I am apart from what I do? And so again, for the believers particularly, I challenge them always to go back and look at the relationship that God has with his people. The relationship he has with us is not such to where he's looking for us to perform in order to be loved. He loves us despite us. He loves us for who we are, not for what we do. What we do is a byproduct of who we feel like we are underneath. We tend to think of ourselves as what we do, and we forget who we are as a person apart from what we do. And in so doing, we forget all of the affirmations that God gives us, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that while we were enemies, he died for us. While we were sinners, he died for us. That we love because he first loved us. That we are made in the image of God. That we were born and made in his image. That we're being molded and shaped from one degree of glory to the next to look more like Christ every day. We know these things, but we don't believe them. But once we believe that these are the characteristics and the nature that God has created us in, it now makes it easier to walk in our identity and our worth. To where I no longer need to perform in order. Come on now. Exactly. We don't have to perform to be loved. I am loved, therefore I perform. So I'm not working to earn salvation. I have salvation, and I'm now working out my salvation with the guarantee that I am loved. It makes it easier to walk out what I know is in me, because I now know that I'm not working it out because I'm afraid of what he might do to me. I'm working it out because I know I'm secure in him. I see what you did there. A lot of our working for God is steeped in insecurity. I don't feel like I'm secure in the kingdom. So I'm going to work to secure myself in the kingdom. When our word tells us that there's nothing we can do to earn it, that our works are but a filthy rag before a righteous God. And so we're not working to earn our way in. We're already in, therefore we work. The peace that surpasses all understanding is built upon an assurance that we're in the kingdom, and that my identity and my worth and value are not contingent upon what I do. For I make mistakes every day. I mess up every day. I do wrong every day. And so my identity is no longer tethered to me, but rather it's anchored in him, in what God has called me to be, what God says I am, what Christ says I am, what Christ died for. And so I'm in a space now where I'm able to walk out the faith that I have. And in walking out the faith that I have, I'm able to now recognize my value and my worth, because my value and my worth is based upon the creator of all things, and not based in my performance, which is good today and a mess tomorrow. And so again, I wanted to share that with us today, because for a lot of us, with the things that are happening in the world today and all the chaos that's ensuing from one day to the next, it's really easy for us to forsake what we know to be true. In doing so, we'll find ourselves trying to earn our way and to, save our way and to produce our way. But God tells us that we have no reason to fear, no reason to be afraid, because he is always with us. And if we have the assurance, the blessed assurance, that we are anchored in him, then even as the storms are raging all around us every day, we can take comfort just like he did when the storm was raging with him inside the boat, and go to sleep in the storm. Again, it's difficult, the world that we live in, but it doesn't mean that we have to forsake who we are as people as a result of the things that are happening in the world. The peace that surpasses all understanding will indeed guard our hearts and minds if we identify ourselves with who Christ says we are and not what the world says we are. The world will try so hard to label us as good guys one day, bad guys the next. We see it all over the social media platforms. We see it all over media right now, where we're labeled all these different things at any given point in time, and it seems just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But we can take comfort in the fact that if we say that we are his and we say that we're in the kingdom, then Christ has secured in us a blessed assurance that we are his and he is ours. And in that, we don't have to struggle as much with our identity, because we're not working to earn a title. We already have the title because we have him. Seek him while he may be found. You better speak, author R.K. Renton. Appreciate you. Yes, ma'am. Seek him while he may be found. Again, he loves us, and he desires that none of us perish, but that we all come to salvation. And again, a lot of us, we are struggling with identity because we are trying to define ourselves by our own mantras or by the mantras of the world, trying to gain validation and acceptance and support from people who are fickle every single day. One day they love us, the next day they can't stand us. I found that out just this weekend as I was, talking about Nadia Coafor's, crash out when she posted the owl on her site, and everybody was getting all up in arms about how she responded to the person, you know. People, here it is. I'm just saying, listen, why are you even on her page in the first place? You don't like what she posts on her page? Keep it moving. Swipe right. Like, why are we even bothering her with that? But as soon as I said that, everybody who loved my book, suddenly, I'm never going to read anything you write because you just like her. Like, bro, I'm just saying, dude, you're wasting all this energy. Just swipe and move on. Like, why you don't want to read my book no more? People going to love you today. And they can't stand you tomorrow, and so if we're constantly living our lives trying to reshape who we are to get people to like us and to get people to love us, then we're going to have identity crises every 6 months. The enemy always trying to find a reason. 100%. And if we're trying so hard to make people happy, we're trying so hard to make all these other folk happy, one day to the next, we're always going to have an identity crisis because people are fickle. The media at large is always fickle. I've always found it interesting that the people who actually support us the hardest, they actually don't say a lot. They support us from the background. They don't say anything, but they are rooting for us all day long. The vast majority of the people, for example, who have read my book, who have bought my book, I haven't heard a peep from them. The vast majority of people who watch my material, who watch my content, they don't like it. They don't say anything. They don't comment. But they watch, they pay attention. That's why when my page was popping on Saturday, I'm like, y'all actually paying attention to me? Like, y'all been here the whole time? Like, I didn't know who y'all were here. And so, again, right. And so, we got to think. We're thinking it's like, if it's God that's doing it, if it's God that's saying do it, absolutely. But a lot of times, and a lot of times, we find ourselves in places where when people are, in our ears and we're watching them and they're talking to us and they're telling us things, we tend to reshape who we are based on what people want and what people think. And then we wonder where we are in the midst of it. And God is simply telling us, no, who did I say you are? Who did I say you are? What did I tell you to do? Don't worry about this person or that person because somebody needs what I'm trying to produce out of you. Somebody needs what you're trying to say, what you're trying to sell, what you're trying to do. And if you change it because of them, then the person you're meant to reach ain't gonna get reached. Person said, RK said, spirit of rejection will have people crumble. And yes. And so now, what was meant to be dynamic and unique and yours, and is supposed to be a testament of the supremacy of Christ and all that he's done. Instead, it's just now a carbon copy of something that somebody wanted, watch this, 20 minutes ago. And now they've moved on to the next thing. And you're wondering, but I made all these changes. I did all these things for you. I don't want that anymore. I want something else now. And so again, when we're rooted and anchored in Christ, rooted and anchored in what he wants us to do, and rooted and anchored in who he called us to be, what he named us, going from Abram to Abraham, going from Saul to Paul, even though that's kind of a misnomer, but going from Jacob to Israel. When God changes the name, changes the identity, changes who we are, that's when we make the changes and make the adjustments. But when we're rooted and anchored in him, it makes it easier for us to walk in who we are, walk in our truth, walk in what we're meant to do, meant to be. And in so, I'm encouraging all of us today. Okay. right? Again, that I'm encouraging all of us to be anchored in who we are, anchored in who he calls us to be, anchored in what he calls us to do. Because when we're anchored in him, it makes it easier to walk in our truth and to walk in our identity, to walk in our purpose. Not because, we're expecting our wildest imaginations to come true per se, but because we want to be at peace with ourselves, at peace with our God. Whether that means something spectacular is going to happen or whether the spectacular is in the mundane, we can rest in the blessed assurance that we are who Christ says we are, and that's all that we need. I appreciate y'all so much for spending some time with me today on the live. I appreciate y'all for listening and watching the Just Talk About podcast with your boy Eddie D right here on the various platforms and networks. I really do appreciate y'all so much. I appreciate my people on the live holding it down for me on TikTok right now in the chat box. RK Written, I love you. DJ Shop, I really do appreciate you as well. Again, we are presented by Rebirth Publishings, the publishing arm of my adult superhero romance thriller saga, The Infinity Saga, with Book 1, The Infinity Theory, and Book 2, Echoes. Again, we are available on all the platforms. The replay will be available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to be watching and watch it out for our various platforms as we continue to build out the Just Talking About brand and be putting our social media handles out there in the days and weeks to come. I really do appreciate y'all so much for everything you guys have been doing for me. Again, if you haven't gotten a book yet, by all means, head over to the Infinity Saga store and get you a copy of the Infinity Theory and Echoes and any and all the merch. I got my Infinity Theory cup right here that I've been, graciously drinking from time to time. This is available in the Infinity Saga store as well. And again, I just appreciate y'all for all the love, all the support. We'll be back here live Tuesday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, mark your calendars. If you're not doing anything, come hang out with your boy for an hour as I'm just talking about whatever is on my mind. As I always say, if you can't see the good, be the good. I love you guys. Peace out, homies.